Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing. It is Monday, the 30th of September. I'm Derek Clark and I'm joined this morning by Chris Jack, fresh from his trip to Ibrox yesterday. How's it going, Chris?
I think this is the short straw for me, Derek, having to go back over events at Ibrox yesterday. Safe to say it was not a classic, but I think we'll find enough things to get us through the next half hour. But no, it was very much a case of 3 points and back up the road. Just saying, not a classic, as I say, but a job done.
Yeah, wasn't a good watch, let's be honest. It was pretty brutal at times. The Rangers got the result. We'll discuss the positives and the areas of concern as well as we dive into the video. Rangers, if you are just joining us, folks, and you missed yesterday's action, then Rangers winning by a solitary goal to nil. Tom Lawrence with a screamer initially ruled out by VAR. They thought he was offside, but he was clearly on. A terrific goal from him. He's in fine fettle at this moment in time. And that turned out to be the winning goal. Hibs were awarded a penalty in first half stoppage time, which for me is a penalty. As soon as I seen it in the replay, I think especially if it was up the other end of the pitch, we'd all be shouting for it. It was a penalty. Fortunately, Jack Butland was in great form. Poor penalty struck by the Hibs player, but good save nonetheless. And Rangers managed to preserve that 1-goal advantage in the second half, despite giving up large spells of domination to Hibs. They were holding on at times. Hibs certainly had a real sprightly second half. Rangers struggled to get going. Cyril Dessers missing an opportunity late on in the game. An outstanding save, I've got to say, from the Hibs goalkeeper. That aside, there wasn't really much to write home about. Chris, you were there. You discussed the match with Stevie and the post-match reaction video. It was a 3 points and up the road job. Now, I get the manager bringing up the short turnaround time, flying back from Malmo. They never get into Glasgow until the wee small hours of Friday. Then you're kicking off at 12 p.m. midday on Sunday. It isn't ideal. That aside, you're still expecting a little bit more from the team, are you not?
I think if we let's take the positives first. The positives are 3 points, obviously, another clean sheet, and another Tom Lawrence goal. I think they were, if you're going to look at things to take from it, that's the three most important ones. On Lawrence, he continues to prove people wrong almost. I was a big critic of him over the summer. For me, he could have been allowed to move on. The manager clearly saw something in him, clearly believed differently. I think we all agreed that number 10 area had to be strengthened. Barami has come in. I thought he made an impact off the bench yesterday, but obviously it's playing wider on that on the left hand side rather than as number 10. Lawrence in that 10 role, he's not for me the week to week answer. He's not the answer for Old Firm games, for example, but in games like that, he clearly shows that he can do something different. He can bring something to the side, and you have to say it was a real moment of quality. And I wrote in my analysis piece yesterday, it looked like Rangers needed something like that. They weren't creating a number of chances. We thought the goal's definitely coming. They're knocking on the door. It's only a matter of time. It looked the type of game where somebody was going to have to pull something out the bag. Somebody was going to have to do something quite special. And you have to say a great finish from Lawrence. Took it really well, curled it away. And as soon as the VAR check goes up, when it's not done and dusted within a couple of seconds, the longer that check goes on, you thought it must be really tight. If it's that tight, there's definitely a chance this goal is going to be given. And thankfully for Rangers it was, because I said there wasn't really a lot else. They weren't exactly banging on that door saying this goal's coming. It looked like it would take something like that, and fair play to Lawrence for doing it. Clean sheet somehow. A really good save from Jack Butland, from I feel like poor penalty. I'm sure we'll come on to discuss the award of said penalty, but it wasn't a great strike. But you have to give the keeper credit for making a good stop. a really big moment in the game, coming just before half-time, deflates Hibs a wee bit, gives Rangers that boost, but they then didn't capitalise on it. Second half, not a lot in it from a Rangers perspective. Hibs looked the more likely to score. The header from Dwight Gale, that for all the world looked like a great chance. If that goes in, then I don't think Hibs. I think Hibs would have been content with their point, and I think they probably feel that they merited the point on the number of chances that they created. It's not been a great start to the season for them, but I thought they came to Ibrox, acquitted themselves well yesterday, and they would have felt that they created enough in that game to leave with something. So thankfully, from Clement's point of view, that didn't happen. So I think Rangers will be pleased, I think, just to get it out the road. As you mentioned there, the manager spoke about the turnaround after Malmo. It really just was one of these games they had to get through it. They have done. It keeps things ticking over, but certainly huge room for improvement in a number of areas.
They've got. I touched on that kick-off time. Scott's Wild and a few others saying why were Rangers playing it at 12 p.m. after a European tie on the Thursday. The manager was quizzed on that afterwards. This is what he says. It's too late for that. We spoke about that already last season. Of course, I'm not the guy who has contact with the SPFL. I don't know the people here. So there are other people in the club who talked about that the last couple of months. But at the end, it's you guys or the television who decides, apparently. But it's something to think about if you want to have good quality product, that you think about those things also, because it's a massive difference to sleep longer today and have a 3 or a 5 o'clock kickoff. It's a big difference, and I understand people who never played, who never travelled in that way. They don't understand, because it's like you need to be there every game and you need to run every time because you're well paid, and that's true also. But there's a difference for every athlete in every sport. Sounding a bit like Jurgen Klopp there. I know you used to bang on about it on down south, Chris, when Liverpool were usually picked for 12 p.m. kickoffs. Listen, I get his point. I'm not a big fan of 12 p.m. kickoffs. I think they're garbage, not just for the players and atmosphere. I think it just takes a wee while just to get sort of waking up. I think I know I've spoke to managers in the past who have played games at 12 p.m. and they say it's not ideal either. It's just one of these things. It's not going to be an issue this coming week, of course, because Rangers play at the ungodly hour of 8 p.m. on Sunday, which will be interesting.
I think there's two trains of thought on this one. Spoke to Stevie about this on the post-match show last night. You either fully agree with the manager and you think that the league should have done more, that the kickoff should have been 3 or 5 or 8 as it is this weekend, or you say you're well paid, you're professional, Rangers have a big enough squad, they have enough money, they should be able to cope. And there's almost not a grey area in that. You either say you have to suck it up and just get on with it, or you understand where the manager's coming from. I do get what he's saying, but ultimately the TV decides. And you look at the two other games that were broadcast live yesterday, Ipswich against Aston Villa. I was on in the press room after the Rangers game finished, and then also the Man United Spurs game later on. Sky decide what kickoff times they've obviously got. They then decide the scheduling. The Rangers game was always going to be the 12. They're not going to put Man United Spurs on at 12 and put Rangers Hibs on at 4 o'clock in that slot. So as much as I can understand the manager's frustration, and I do get his point, it's not great from a preparation point of view, as he outlined. Coming back late on Friday night, your sleep is obviously disrupted, your preparation time is really diminished. Ultimately, that's just part of the challenge of European football. Now, when you have, whether it's Champions League Tuesday, Wednesday, or it's Europa League Thursday, and then playing Sunday, if you have European football, it's just something that you have to handle. Now, whether the manager likes it or not, whether the players agree with it or not, whether it suits them or not, ultimately there is absolutely nothing they can do about it. They could have put a call into the SPFL and say, look, can we play at 3? The SPFL phone Sky and say, how do you fancy having this game at 3? They say no, thank you, and that's the end of the conversation. When you are as reliant on the TV contracts and the money and the schedules, you have no, you have to play when you have to play, unfortunately. So I do understand why he's upset, but ultimately it's not an excuse. And this is not the first Rangers squad and the first Rangers team that has had that challenge of Thursday night Europa League and then Sunday Premiership. Successful teams have done it. We've seen it over recent years. So it's not ideal, but it's just something that the manager has to deal with. And he should have a big enough squad to be able to get through it. He mentioned post-match that a number of the players, even the ones that didn't play on Thursday night, looked a bit leggy. Also, just the effect of the travel. Now, again, you can say it's only Sweden. It's not as if you've come back from Russia or come back from Kazakhstan, but you're still interrupting your normal sleep schedule and your normal training schedule. So it's not ideal. Ultimately, it's just something that Rangers have to deal with. It's not going to be an excuse that they'll get to use too many times over the course of the campaign.
Yep, right. Let's talk about the penalty, because I want to flash up what the manager, how the manager reacted to this in his post-match press conference. Brought out sort of an animation show to show how John Souttar his handball shouldn't have been given as a penalty. So I'll just bring up his performance. Here it is.
Leg up. You cannot put your leg up with your arms like that. That's impossible. So he put his leg up, so he needs to find balance. So his arms are like that when he puts his leg up. And then he sees the other one has contact or gonna get contact, and it's too late. And his natural reflex is to make himself smaller, to put his arm in front of him. And from 1 meter, the ball, not the arm there above his head, but in front of his body, the ball hits him and his arm goes then up like that. I want to ask them what a player can do different in that situation. It's impossible. It's biology. It's biodynamics in that way. And he makes himself smaller instead of he makes himself bigger. I've seen good decisions last couple of weeks with players where.
So there is the manager, an impromptu sort of theatrical performance in the press conference, Chris. Now, as much as it was entertaining to watch, I've got to say I think the referee, Nick Walsh, and the VR team got that one right. Am I wrong there?
The manager, he tested my camera work skills during that performance there. You go in, you get it all set up, and Zoom's perfect. He comes in, he sits down, you press record. You're not expecting him to move until he says, "Thank you, see you all next week." As soon as he stands up, I had to quickly pan out a wee bit so we can get the whole performance in. I understand what he's saying in terms of what's a player meant to do. When the ball comes at you from that distance away, John Souttar can't disappear. He can't make his arm disappear. Ultimately, though, I think it's a penalty. And as you said at the top of the show, if it had been at the other end, there's a crowd of 48,000. I guess there's 48,000 people shouting for it and saying Rangers should have had a spot kick there. Again, as soon as it goes to VAR, I think it's obvious that one's going to get. And that one's going to get given. I do get where Clement is coming from. He's also trying to defend his player. He's obviously frustrated, but I think it's a penalty, unfortunately. As I said, a really good save from Jack Butland. It didn't cost Rangers in the end. Poor penalty, great save, but I don't think it's a big injustice. I know that the manager mentioned it in a couple of post-match interviews. So I understand the point that he's trying to make. You can also watch the full. You can watch the full press conference on YouTube, and you can read what he had to say about it on the site as well. So I do get what he's trying to get across, but for me, it's still a penalty. I think he's called it. I think he's called it wrong.
Yeah, he was asked the manager about Jack Butland's performance. I thought he was really good yesterday. He says, I don't know about this was a question that was posed to him in terms of Jack's performance. He had a wee bit of criticism this season, but you saw today's performance is back to the level we've seen the best of him. I don't know about this criticism we said, but I don't read everything. That's maybe good. Yeah, of course, he made a massive save on the penalty. That makes a difference. It's also not easy in the last couple of weeks to be the goalkeeper because he really didn't have much job to do because of the good work in front of him, but also because of his good coaching and being on top of things with the defence all the time. So that's also massive about a good goalkeeper, that he prevents also that he needs to make saves, and Jack doing that in a good Jack is doing that in a good way. So I think we will be happy that he could show his qualities at one moment again. Manager made substitutions at halftime, Chris. Nico Raskin was brought off. He was given an opportunity from at the start yesterday. Didn't necessarily grab it with both hands, and he was removed. Ross McCausland, who started off over on the left-hand side. Good to see him getting an opportunity after his goal in midweek, but never quite happened for him over on the left-hand side. I think if we want to get the best out of Ross McCausland, it has to be on the right. Those two were replaced. Kieran Dowell coming on, which was interesting. Again, we'll talk about Dowell shortly, but Bayrami also coming on the left-hand side. Surprised at those subs?
Yes, to be honest, because I don't think either of them were, in terms of Raskin and McCausland, I don't think they were that bad that you could say they definitely deserve hooked at half-time. I think Bayrami clearly made an impact and had more of an influence than Ross McCausland did. As you say, it just didn't really work for Ross. Now, I think he deserved his chance after his great goal on Thursday night, but it just didn't really work out for him. Raskin, I didn't think he was that bad. That's not to say he was great. He didn't grab a hold of the game. He didn't go and run the show. But I didn't think he was that bad. But you say, well, he's been given his chance and he's definitely not taking it, and he should be removed at half time. And with all respect to Kieran Dowell, is he that much better? Is he that much different? I don't really see it. If you're looking at that Rangers midfield, Barron and Diomande are miles ahead in terms of form and potential right now. They're clearly the two. But if you're going to replace Raskin and say he's not the answer, I think people would be looking at, well, rather than Kieran Dowell, why not give someone like Billy Rice half an hour? Yes. Give him 45 minutes. What are you learning by playing Kieran Dowell that you're not going to get by playing someone like Rice? So I think that would be the frustration, I think, for a lot of fans. I don't think Raskin has done enough this season in the chances that he has had to say that he merits a long-term run. So I don't think it was terrible yesterday, but he didn't do enough to say, go and start me on Thursday night. That's not going to be the case now. But you then, I say, when it's Dowell that comes on, it's almost a bit like for like, and so what are you really getting out of that sub?
Yeah, absolutely agree with you there. I would like to see one of the young lads play. I don't see what we're getting with Dowell that we won't get with one of the academy boys. But that is on the manager. He sees him every day in training, and he's someone that he prefers at this moment in time. I just thought Rangers missed Mohamed Diomande yesterday. He was quizzed on that. He says he got a knock at his knee on Thursday against Malmo, so it wasn't risked against Hibs, but the big chance he will be available for Thursday. He says there's not much to worry about that. I'd imagine he comes back into the team for Thursday night. Václav Cerny, Chris, had a poor game. He's not in form at this moment in time. It looks like a guy who's struggling with confidence for me. Passed up a great chance when Igman picked him out in the box. Really should have done better with a shot. And a lot of supporters wanting more from him, saying he's a bit of a one-trick pony. He loves to come in on that left-hand side. He reminds me a wee bit of Haris Vukic that Rangers had at the time. Remember, he was just completely left-footed, loved to come in on his left. I liked him, and to be honest, wanted Rangers to sign him permanently, but he just loves to come back in on his left. Doesn't have a right foot, Chris, and things weren't coming off for him yesterday. And then he was hooked by the manager, and he was asked in the press conference, did you speak with Václav when he came off? He was maybe getting a little bit frustrated with what was happening with the fans. He says, no, I just spoke with him about the game and the story we're making better and better. He didn't play too many games last season, so we need to raise his level in that way to be able to perform every 2 days, and that's a normal story. What did you make of him?
I think he's become more of an issue over the last handful of games. I think when he first came in, he looked different. He looked an upgrade in a position that Rangers have required an upgrade in for a long, long time now. How many transfer windows have we gone through speaking about the need for a proper option on that on that right hand side. Cerny looked to be a really good acquisition. Started well, but I think those last couple of games, it's just not quite. It's not quite worked for him. Whether it's that one trick pony aspect of it, whether it's teams have figured out that that's what he likes to do, and they can then combat that. I think he certainly needs to. I think he certainly needs to find more. Problem is, you look at those wide areas. There's not really a lot there for Rangers. Obviously, Cortez out injured again. Spoke about McCausland, Matondo, still coming back from his injury. There's not a lot there for Rangers, and they need more in those wide areas. The way that Clement sets up his side puts a lot of emphasis on the wide players really contributing. I thought a lot of the width yesterday came from the fullbacks rather than the wider players in attack. Banami, I thought, made an impact off the bench. I'd like to see him playing 10, but you can only play him at 10 if there's any proper options on the flanks, and it's just not really there. So I think Cerny will be given the chance to almost play himself back into form. I don't see him being dropped. I think he will start on Thursday night, just because there's not that many other options available. But they do need to try and find an answer, because those wider areas, they're not quite working at present. And I thought there's a ball that Cerny put in early on from that right hand side that looked, I can't remember who almost got on the end of it, looked dangerous. Apart from that, there wasn't enough of that, and I think we do need more. He has become not quite a target almost, but he has become someone that people are talking about more and more often. And he needs to try and find a couple of performances, maybe try and find a match winning moment or a game changing moment, just to get people back on side again.
He does, yeah. I totally agree with that. And his form is concerning. I'm not going to lie about that. Headkeeper says Jim Baxter was a one-trick pony, but what a pony. Yeah, absolutely. He was a top pony, was Jim Baxter. Christopher with a point says, I would rather play Lovelace once he is fit. It was good to see him as part of the squad and warming up against Malmo on Thursday. And back in contention. But he has to impress the manager and prove that he's worthy of an opportunity. But he did play wide right, remember, before he got injured against St Mirren in that game. Interesting suggestion. Let's get on to Hamza Igman, Chris, because he was afforded his first start for the club yesterday. I think it surprised many, although I can understand why the manager started him, given that Cerny Dessers has played the vast majority of matches. Hamza, of course, not part of the squad due to passport reasons on Thursday, so he was fresh and ready to feature. He looked like a guy that is very much in the developing stage, and he's learning all about the team, how they play Scottish football. Looked a bit lost at times, I could argue, but he is a young lad. As I touched on there, he is learning, and I wouldn't read too much into his performance. I've seen him come in for a wee bit of criticism, but I would cut him some slack with regards to that. But it's clear that Cerny Dessers is the main man at the moment.
I think Igaman wasn't helped by the service, and we just spoke about the wide players there. He didn't really get a lot to try and feed off. Had a chance just before he was subbed that he put over the bar from at 20 yards or so. Apart from that, there wasn't really a lot in the game for him.
No.
It just didn't really get a chance to influence it. That's not to say that he couldn't have done, but I say when the service just isn't there for him, he never really looked threatening. Didn't really cause Hibs any problems. And I think getting like 55, 60 minutes or so, maybe he got under his belt. I think it'll be good for him. It's a first start. It's more game time at Ibrox. It's more game time within this side. But there's no doubt that Dessers starts on Thursday night against Leon. He has to be the one that leads the line. He missed his obligatory chance also late on. I've seen him take a wee bit of stick for not scoring that header, but I think you have to give the keeper a whole lot of credit for it. It's a really difficult. There's a still doing the rounds on social media last night And you think, how has he missed from there? You nod it almost 90 degrees and it finds the top corner. I don't think it's quite as easy as that. I think he's tried to find the bigger area of the goal. The keeper had just made himself big. He's put his hand out and he's made a great save. So I'm not being too critical of him for that chance. But he's definitely the number one option for that role. Igaman, I think we've seen enough to suggest that there might be a player in there. I think you could probably. There's definitely more to come, but it's safe to say that he's still very raw. He's still got a lot of rough edges that the manager has to try and keep polish. And while he only has the two options, that's maybe putting slightly more pressure on him. If Danilo was back, that would then give obviously Clement that third option. You can then put Danilo into matches like that. Maybe takes a wee bit of the weight off Igaman. But I think there's definitely something. There's something there. There's something that Rangers can work on. There's something in him that can be improved. It was just, as I think it turned into a difficult game for him. It could have been the type of afternoon that worked really well for him and worked in his favour and a great chance and full Ibrox and Rangers go and play well and get a bounce off a Thursday night. It was a bit flat all round in the stands and on the pitch. Rangers never really got going, and as a result, Igaman never really get a chance to get going either.
Yeah, that service is a concern. I've got to admit, and looking at the league table at this moment in time, Chris, I know it's early doors. 6 matches have been played. Rangers, we know, 5 points behind Aberdeen and Celtic. But you look at the goal difference already. Celtic plus 20, Rangers plus 6, and it's been an issue for a long time now. Rangers simply don't score enough goals, do they?
No, is the short answer to that one, unfortunately, and that's that. As you say, it's been a long-standing issue. They do need not just a number 9, obviously, in terms of Dessers.
Yeah, other areas they need to get goals from other areas. Yeah,
need goals to come from other areas. Now, so often in recent seasons, that other area has been James Tavernier. He's obviously not hit the levels that he has done for previous seasons in the first couple of weeks of this campaign. So that's a negative for Tav, obviously, but a negative for the team. You're looking at midfield goals. Now, where are they coming from in the middle of the park? I mentioned Diomande last week. I'd like to see him pose more of a threat. Lawrence, I think that's 3 for the season, already equaling last season's tally. So that it's good that he's been able to get a couple. But where else are they coming from? Can you rely on your wingers to contribute 10 each? Probably not. Can you rely on Igaman to get 10, 12? At this stage, it's looking doubtful. So if you say you get 20 from Dessers, you maybe get even if Tav can get anywhere near his usual numbers, that doesn't leave you with an awful lot over the course of the campaign. And even like Souttar and Proper had a header late on that should have done better with. Rangers need to try and find a way of spreading the goals around, sharing that responsibility around. They need more goals coming from different areas of the side, and it's hard to, if you go through every player and you want to put a number on them, how many do you think they'll get? I don't think there's an awful lot there.
No, it's something that needs to be sorted out. We've been saying that for a long time now. One of the positives, and he's impressed ever since he arrived, is Jefty. And with the point. Let's talk about Jefty. He's going to be a right good player for us. Talking about young Igaman, he's only 20, and he has been sensational. He has been sensational in a way for Rangers, so much so that when Ridvan comes back, he's playing second fiddle for me, Chris. Another good performance from him. He just provides a lot of energy down that left-hand side, and he was sort of Rangers' main attacking outlet, especially in that first half. Bundles of energy, and another decent showing. He was awarded the Man of the Match award yesterday, and I think him and Buckland were my two yesterday, but another decent showing from the Brazilian.
I think he's been arguably the surprise of the season for Rangers. When he was signed, people didn't know a lot about him. I think the expectation level was quite low because you knew that he had to adjust to a new country, adjust to a new club, settle into this side. There was also a language barrier. I think people had a not in a case of like doing him down. Didn't think that he could go and be a good player, but I think people were willing to be patient with him. But I think he's surpassed those early expectations. He's come in, looked really comfortable, is getting better defensively all the time, has clearly got great attacking qualities, as you say, bundles of energy, can get up and down that flank at ease. Really, really gives Rangers something positive on that left-hand side. And again, I think we spoke about it last week. When Ridvan is fit, for me, he doesn't walk straight back into this side anymore. I think that's the biggest compliment that you can play to Jeffrey for the way that he has filled in over the course of the last few weeks. It could have been a big issue for Rangers, could have been a problem, but I think he's been really impressive, and fair play to him for the way that he's come in and started his Rangers career.
Yep, a lot of folk suggesting different variations of lineups heading into the Lyon game on Thursday. We'll discuss that in detail as we build up to that game in a few days' time. But we'll wrap up there for now. Big thanks to Chris as ever, and thank you to you all for interacting with the show as always. It is much appreciated. Just before I forget, as I touched on Friday, I met so many Rangers fans that were stopped to have a chat about the Rangers review and Rangers in general over there in Sweden. There's a few that are looking for shout outs, so before I forget, big shout out to Lee, Chris, Brian from Shettleston as well, and all of you all that stopped to have a chat with me. It was absolutely superb stuff. So yeah, hopefully you all got home safe and sound. Right, well, those of you that are Rangers Review extra members, we'll record a Q&A this afternoon, so we hope you can join us for that. I'll stick out the link in the community page as ever, and yeah, get your questions in, folks, and I'll get through the load of them. And just a heads up with that Lyon game on the horizon, I'm speaking to a Lyon podcaster tomorrow at 10 a.m. Straight off the back of the morning briefing. So we'll get an insight into what we can expect on Thursday. I think they've got a few problems behind the scenes at Lyon by all accounts, but they did have a good start to their Europa League campaign, defeated Olympiacos by 2-0. So it will be a big test for Rangers. I think it's going to be a step up from Malmo, but yeah, one I am looking forward to. Right, if we don't speak to you later, enjoy your Monday. Bye for now.